Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Internet Friends, the episode where we start punching fascists in the face.
About time.
We're recording this episode a week late because all three of us collectively had the weirdest weeks possible, which we were discussing in the pre-show. We don't need to rehash it.
As you can see, I am still living out of boxes because I haven't been able to unpack yet.
I thought that was just your bookshelves.
I got the important stuff out. I got the Simpsons stuff out. That's what's important.
Yeah. So
my grandpa gave me this. It's an original from the 90s.
Oh, that's great.
He was a hoarder.
I was about to say, is that the same grandpa who has the secret family in Japan? This is the public story now.
No, that's the other one. That's the one who had to marry my grandmother because he knocked her up at 16. I shouldn't have shared that line. Why did I say that?
I'll bleep that out in the edit.
No, it's good. You can leave that in. It's fine.
Okay. And then Bree's had a stressful...
It will go well with what we're talking about here in a minute.
Oh, yay. Yeah, perfect.
And then Bree's had a stressful week too. One of the fur babies, Theo, was, not feeling super great, but he's doing well now, and we're very happy for them.
Yes, and car troubles. That's not him in the background. That's Dante. Pass the fuck out.
Yeah. Dante just chilling. Dante just chilling.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that goes ahead and brings us into our first topic of the day, which is our homework assignment, which was assigned by me, and we decided to read Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbs. So, a couple of things I want to preface before we start. Trigger warning for anybody. We're probably going to be talking a lot about specifically some of the themes of the book, most notably sexual violence toward women. So if there's any kind of thing that you guys aren't comfortable listening to, by all means, I'll try to have something in the edit on the screen letting you guys know when we're talking about that. But it is an important theme of the book, and it's definitely something I want to talk about because I feel like it's important. So I assigned this not in a, hey, let's talk about it because I really like it perspective, and more it's like, we've done a lot of really light stuff. I feel like we need to talk about something a little bit heavier. And so I went into this not with the perspective of, did you guys like it? And more from the perspective of what did you guys think? So Brie, I'm going to go ahead and have you kind of kick that off of what you thought.
Yeah, for sure. So I have read this before, but what I noticed immediately, the first time I read Watchmen was in high school. I was a senior in high school, and I am gonna be 35, in a couple of months. So I'm just very different perspective. And reading this again, I immediately was like, oh, I was in a very, very different place when I read this for the first time. Yeah. And honestly, one of the first things that struck me was my opinion on Rorschach, because I don't want to say that I idolized him, but I will say I think I was more empathetic towards him when I was younger. And now that I was reading it now, I was like, oh, he fucking sucks. He's a mega libertarian. I'm I know people like this and they fucking suck. So that was the very first thing. And also that Dr. Manhattan is absolutely a groomer. Did not realize that.
Absolutely.
He's 16. He's in his 30s. That completely went past me when I read it the first time. I was like, oh, ick. He's really gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the notes I have here is she was 16. Dr. Manhattan is a creep.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
Rorschach is a Republican's wet dream is my second note.
Yeah.
Yes.
So since we're on the topic of Rorschach, I find it very interesting because, Seth, I sent you a video from Zero Wolf on TikTok talking about it, where a lot of people just oh, Rorschach's a fascist, he's kind of MAGA kind of stuff like that. It's just everybody here is a fascist. All the characters are either fascist or they permit fascism because it's convenient. And go ahead.
And though I agree with that video, I would actually argue that Silk Spectre is a victim more than she is a fascist.
All the women are in this. All the women are strictly victims.
And again, that is definitely a topic we're definitely going to expand on. Absolutely. Oh, yeah. But especially kind of at the end of it, and this was one of those things where it's just I think the reason why Rorschach gets, I think, a lot of praise from people, because at the end of it, and we'll talk about the ending a little bit, again, further down the line, he's the only one who said, fuck this.
Yeah.
Everybody else went along with it, and he was the only one to be like, no, absolutely not. We can't permit this. And it's because Rorschach he's from lower class family. He is in the muck. He has an idealized idea of what the world is supposed to be, and anything that goes against, which is how he became the way he is. Mm-hmm. But what made him relatable to a lot of people is because I think, especially a lot of us growing up, when we first probably got exposed to Watchmen, we had that same thing. It's just like, yeah, no, everything is fucked. And everything should be this way, but that creates another kind of rigid thing, which still gets you into that pipeline, which is a thing that we deal with all the time now.
Well, and the first time that I read Watchmen, I was 20, and I was only a year or so out of the church. And so there were a lot of things the first time I read it that, like, I hadn't unconditionalized myself from the feelings of the church yet. And so, like, Brie, like you said, there were a lot of things where, like, reading it today, I'm like, oh, fuck, there's a lot of terrible shit here that I, at the time when I was first reading it, was like, no, this is fine. Yeah, Rorschach's a great hero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, time and place of reading this now, obviously, the way the world is right now, Nixon getting reelected for multiple terms after his first 2 terms in this alternate reality. It's a little close to home with the way things are right now. It's a little different. It does remind you, it's like, yeah, these issues aren't new. These are things that we've always been dealing with. Mm-hmm. And kind of like, again, going back to like all the characters kind of suck for the most part for different reasons. They're all in different perspective. Like we talked about Dr. Manhattan, where it's just like he's a groomer, but we also like he's intellectually disassociated. He's completely out of touch. Like Osmodeus is a great allegory for Elon Musk. It's just like, I'm a brilliant billionaire and like I know what's better for everybody else. Mm-hmm. Silk Spectre again is somebody who is a victim of a lot of trauma in her life and basically becomes self-centered because of it. And so basically just completely detaches from anything else that's going on and is really only thinking about how everything affects her. Night Owl is a cuck, for lack of a better term. Like, it's just
he is impotent without feeling purpose. Yeah. He doesn't feel as though his life means anything unless he is Night Owl.
Yeah. The comedian is a classic nihilist. Like, nothing matters, so anything I do that's horrible doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, because life is just a joke. And also, he's based off of The Punisher.
Yeah.
Not Punisher. Peacemaker. Sorry. He was originally supposed to be Peacemaker, for people who don't know. Not Dr. Manhattan. Rorschach is The Question. These are all characters who are riffs off of characters that DC had originally purchased.
Oh, I did not know that.
But and I learned that myself recently. Dr. Manhattan also, he is severely a narcissist. Yeah. And his I stopped caring about humanity the moment you left me. No, you didn't. You still went to that interview after she left you, and you're just blaming her for your lack of empathy towards the world. Mm-hmm. And he is a massively emotionally abusive character.
No.
And he groomed her.
To all the women in his life.
This falls under a category of media that has become very common nowadays, of where I say it's just there's nobody who I can root for. Like Game of Thrones was that for me, Walking Dead was that for me in a lot of ways. It's just one of those things it's okay for characters to have flaws, and that's totally fine. Having a totally perfect paragon character is not interesting media wise, but this takes it to the nth degree of just no, you need to understand everyone in this. There is no hero in this story.
It's very grimdark for sure.
Yeah, it's about superheroes, but there's no hero in this story really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and even the only real, and a big point of the novel is that the only superhero is Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah.
Everybody else is just an average person dressing up in a costume.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
Which
Dr.
Zack
Manhattan.
Snyder film, which I'm sure we'll get to, completely ignores that. But I have notes on that.
Yeah, no, yeah, Dr. Manhattan's kind of the linchpin of making this an AU because that's the thing that really alters how, this timeline differs from, like, the timeline we're currently on, which doesn't differ by much. But,
Yeah.
like, it's just like, they could have kept the president as Ronald Reagan and it would have still worked.
Yeah. Turns out we didn't need to win Vietnam for it to end up this shitty.
Yeah, pretty much. So, I do want to talk about specifically Alan Moore and his kind of legacy and his role and stuff. Again, I prefaced it in the pre-show when I talked about trigger warning, so we'll probably get into that here, so I'll put that up on the screen. He is, in my opinion, one of my favorite problematic writers from this era because he at least shows a certain level of self-awareness about how problematic he is. He does have a very bad habit when it comes to depictions of women and specifically violence against women, because he not only did he do this book where the original Silk Spectre gets raped and is depicted very graphically, he also did The Killing Joke where Batgirl has what happens to her from the Joker and everything else. And he's at least been kind of honest, like, yeah, I could have approached that differently, but I kind of want to.
Well, he has shown regret, specifically with The Killing Joke. He has shown regret in that comic.
Yeah. So, but like, I kind of just want to talk about it because it's one of those things where it's just like, where's kind of the line when we talk about depicting like this kind of violence? Because I'm of the opinion that like, artistically, you should be allowed to show that kind of stuff because it allows us to have the conversation about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think you should just be like, oh, this thing shows violence against women. This thing shouldn't exist. I'm just like, but violence against women does happen.
Yeah. Well, I think it's when the women don't have agency, right? I feel like my partner put this really well where like, and you might have gotten this from somewhere, but he said, women in this comic are there to be abused or trophies. And that is it. Those are their only like faculties in this, which is like, yes, we can definitely have these conversations and honestly very important conversations. And it could have been, shown in a lot of different ways here, but all the women here don't have anything to do except for cry and be emotional and kind of drive, the plot for other male characters. Like your point with Dr. Manhattan, like, yes, she's simultaneously the reason that he gives up on humanity and then decides that he wants to save it again. Like, that's all her fault for some reason, which I'm like, that's not fucking fair. Like, you are being a bad partner because you're a terrible person, so...
Yeah, I'm gonna emotionally torture you even further by showing you your past and things you didn't realize, and that's gonna be the reason why I'm a good guy.
Yep, he's the hero. Good for him.
Like, it's, I as a cis man, I shouldn't speak to this. I don't think anything that I could say would matter.
No, it's why I'm glad Bree's here, and I want her to have as much of the floor as possible on this topic, obviously, but yeah, like...
That's why I didn't want it to be a two-person episode. Like,
no. When Bree said that she wasn't going to make it last week, I was just like, nope, I am not having this conversation without somebody, without Bree there. I'm sorry. This is not a time for two white dudes and a microphone.
I very much appreciate that. Unfortunately, I feel like I don't have much more to say off of that. It's just like, unfortunately, like all the women in the story do not have agency. They are only there to be a counterpart to a male character, specifically Dr. Manhattan for a lot of it, or the comedian. Like, so like that's it. They're just next to them, and they don't really have like, because I know you mentioned her kind of being selfish, Silk Spectre, but I'm just like, I mean, I don't even think she had enough to be selfish. She was really not much of a character to begin with. Yet she was just kind of like, sleep with this person. Okay, now I'm mad. Sleep with this person. Okay, now I'm mad. Oh my God, he's my dad. Crazy. Like that's there's not.
No.
Yeah. No. Well, and even even you see when like she goes along with Night Owl, it's just to appease him. It's not something she actually wants to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She's giving him a ton of attention, so he gives her attention. That's basically how she's written. And again, it's not a very well written female character. And again, it's a valid criticism against Alan Moore to say like your writing of women is terrible. Mm-hmm. And I understand, again, going back to like her element in his story, specifically what he's trying to get across is how fascism breeds from not only from like the people who actively perpetrate it, but for the people who permit it and the people who fall into these pipelines. Like that is basically the theme, and it's a popular thing in Alan Moore's stories. You can see similar stuff in V for Vendetta. Her problem specifically is that she, again, because of her trauma, which she has a lot of it, and including her mother, like they become self-centered because they have to control their emotions and how their place in the world, and that's like how insular they make themselves, to where basically everything else going outside, like when the TV's on and they're talking about all the news and stuff going on with Russia and Afghanistan, she's just like, oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's that's basically the theme. But again, like I said,
but also she has lived in a world where her mother was trying to live through her.
Yeah,
and she has never had
what parents living vicariously through their children. That never happens.
Yeah, no, never. But she has never been her own person.
Yeah.
She left her mother, who completely controlled her upbringing, to then be groomed by Dr. Manhattan for the rest of her life. Like, I don't think she even knows what kind of person she is.
Yeah. She doesn't have a personality.
Yeah. She is only ever served to please the people around her.
Yeah.
And that's why I wrote that she's the victim of the story.
Yeah, she's absolutely is. And again, that's not inherently good writing of women.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
By no means.
But like I will say, this era of comic book writing, I don't know if I like Watchmen. I didn't read this from the perspective of like, I really like this story. I read it more from it's like, this is very important and influential, not just for like the genre, but in media in general. Alan Moore is an interesting character to me, who in a lot of ways I relate to. But that doesn't mean I can't criticize him. Absolutely not.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, especially when it comes to other comic book writers of this time, fuck you, Frank Miller.
Fuck Frank Miller. Frank Miller is way worse at writing women than Alan Moore is.
Oh, by a mile.
Yes.
By a fucking mile. Like, Frank Miller is the fascist that Alan Moore was writing about.
Yep, he absolutely is. Have you read Dark Knight Returns? It's like...
But yeah, but no, like, and so there's also kind of an interesting history behind this, because as we know, this is a DC property technically, which Seth, you kind of touched on it, where like DC has like, the rights to a lot of the characters some of these were based off of. Yeah. Alan Moore wrote this with the expectation specifically that he would get to own the rights to it after it went out of publication, and DC basically has never taken this book out of publication. Like, I think I bought my copy that I have here maybe like 5 years ago, and like I could still walk into a comic book shop right now and still pick up this book.
Yeah,
it's available at my library right away.
Yeah, like it's one of those things where like Alan Moore legitimately got screwed by the comic books industry, and like he's more or less shunned it now. Seth, you joked about like his novel that's going to ruin end the world.
Yeah,
like
I bring that up a lot.
Yeah,
I specifically blame Alan Moore for everything wrong in the world because of that book that he's writing.
If he had just ended the world for us, we wouldn't be in this mess.
Yep.
But it's one of those things, like it does make me not want to engage with any of the other Watchmen media that's out there, because they've released other anthology comics since then. I think they've released them like in the early 2010s.
I remember when those were coming out.
Like, I don't want to engage with those. I never watched the HBO show. I did watch the movie. That was actually the first time I was ever introduced to Watchmen.
Same.
I got halfway through it yesterday before I was just like, okay, I remember why I hate Zack Snyder.
Oh, I have notes because I watched the whole thing, and every note boils down to...
I'm excited. I did not watch it, I will say, but I have favorable opinions about it.
Yeah, basically every note I have comes down to, I hate Zack Snyder. He fundamentally didn't understand the text. Fuck this movie. This adaptation sucks. Everyone is just telling you everything. In parentheses, you can't just tell the audience how you feel. That makes me feel angry.
The comedian is your father. Like, yes, we know.
Yeah.
That is like, and it was an added line too. That's not in the comic. I was like, yes,
It's not.
I just fucking saw it.
It is so insane how basically he used the entire graphic novel except for like the end as like basically a storyboard, like point for point, beat for beat, and yet he still fucked that up.
It is a wild take on adaptation because there are lines taken directly from the comic. There are shot for shot panels, and yet he completely misses the point of the entire thing.
Yeah. And like
it is a wild adaptation.
And like in fairness to the graphic novel, like, you know, comics books do have a lot of exposition because characters do have to like say like what they're feeling because there's only so much you can say in the illustrations. But especially in modern comics now, they've gotten so much better about that kind of stuff. But it's just like, dude, like even visually, which Zack Snyder like used to get praised for like his visual style, I was just like, this doesn't work.
Yeah,
this does not, like, literally watching it, it was just like, I was just like, Zack Snyder doesn't even understand how, like, the one thing he's good at, and it's not working for this.
Yeah.
Anyways,
it's ridiculous.
Brie, your thoughts on the movie because you have favorable opinions.
Yeah, so, and I will say, again, I did not rewatch it again. I just didn't fucking have time to watch a Zack Snyder
movie. Again, I got to where Rorschach went to prison, and I was just like, I'm done.
Well, I think
I watched it over 2 days.
Oh, that's fair. That's probably the way to do it. I think here's what I do like about it. One, I do think the movie editing is better. I think
I actually agree with you. I actually 1,000% agree with you.
I understand. Like, I was just talking with my partner about this morning. I was like, yes, it does kind of cut some of the things from Ozymandias, but like, I think the thing is, I think that would have been so stupid to see in a movie. Like, especially in that era where it's so early in the superhero like movies. I think that would have like made this dead on arrival. I think narratively, Dr. Manhattan being the villain at the end just makes sense. Like, it just is.
It does. And also having the attack from the other force affect multiple cities and not just New York makes more sense.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, the idea of, in order for this to work, it has to be a global threat, especially in Cold War era. Like, I agree with you, Britt. Like, as I was reading it, I was just like, wait, do I like the movie ending better than this? Because like all the other like important beats still happen. The only thing that I think the movie does wrong is specifically Night Owl. Like, they tried to make Night Owl more sympathetic in the movie at the end because of how he reacted to Rorschach dying and everything else. And like,
I actually like that scene better than how they do it in the comic because like
again,
interesting.
Yeah, well, because they're just having sex in that scene, Night Owl, and like
that is definitely
like,
weird.
Why?
That is 1,000. That's just like, oh god, a giant atrocity just got committed, and we're not gonna say anything about it. Let's bone.
Yeah, 100%.
And then cry in the corner.
I'm not saying it's the best choice, but I think of the two, I think that is narratively better. And I do like seeing somebody care about Rorschach being dead. Like, I think that is nice. Like, yeah, again, he's not a great character, but I think it is nice just seeing somebody react. Like, out of everybody.
Well, and in the comic, it's just treated like,
you're
the only one who saw it.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, he won't make it. I didn't kill him. I didn't kill him at all. Yeah.
Like, basically he got treated as like, it's like, oh, you're the only one not falling in line, we're gonna get rid of you. Again, classic fascist scene. Of just like, oh, the people who don't get a line just get done away with. But yeah, I agree. Like, literally as I was reading the end, I was just like, yeah, I actually think I like Zack Snyder's ending better.
Yeah,
I felt that same way.
There's better choices for sure, and I do like the casting.
That's one note. The one good note I have is that the casting is good.
Super good. So he is like, he adds. Unfortunately, he makes that character kind of likable in a not likable way because he just plays the character so fucking well. Especially the death scene, like that has way more emotional weight in the movie, I think. And again, adding Night Owl to that scene, it just makes it hit a lot harder. And what I kind of like about the movie, I think, is just that I think when comic book nerds, which are sometimes the worst kind of fucking people, I feel like anytime that they like say they're like, oh, well, if you make a comic book movie, just do it panel for panel. And that's what we want. I'm like, no, it isn't. No, it fucking isn't.
You think you want that.
You think you want that. Yeah.
This is such a good example of that. I was like, because honestly, a lot of the scenes that are absolutely panel for panel, like, the attention to detail there is really, really good. It was fun to see that like on screen. Does it work as a movie in general? Maybe not, but like I just think it's an interesting adaptation in that sense because this is what everybody says they want, and yet it kind of doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish they had at least gotten again a better writer than Zack Snyder to like do it, and like again, I think Zack Snyder's
my internet's going out.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna talk over you, but Zack Snyder's visual style again.
I actually have to go use the bathroom real quick, so please continue to talk.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, no, as I was saying, Zack Snyder's visual style I think just doesn't work for this, and like he does have a visual style. He knows how to set up a good shot. Like he knows how to work a camera. I will give him credit for days for that. I'll wait for Seth to get back before we talk about some of his other work, because I feel like this also leads into like the conversations about the Snyder Cut.
I've never seen any of those movies.
I refuse to watch the Snyder Cut on principle, even though I do think personally that he deserved the right to get to make that movie the way he intended and not like how he got screwed out of it, because he definitely got screwed by the studio in that situation.
Oh, I don't doubt it for a second, but yeah, I'll still never watch it, so probably.
Yeah, no, I don't watch it on principle because of just screw DC and Warner Brothers for everything that they've done to the genre.
And Gal Gadot, fuck her most of all. She fucking sucks, which is such a bummer because I liked her at the time, but that's before obviously I knew more about her history.
yeah, like the Zionism and everything else that goes along with it.
That she's still holding on strong to. She has not changed her stance one fucking bit on that.
I mean,
she was an IDF soldier.
Yeah, so. I was about to say she's conditioned from being in the Israeli military, and they do make people have to be in the military in Israel, so it's just like again, that's want to talk about more fascist shit.
Yup. Oh my goodness.
Just want to make it very clear to everybody: being critical of Israel does not make you an anti-Semite.
110 fucking %. Like, let's use our critical thinking skills.
Yep. So. It's just like, hey, you guys are in this situation because of fascism, and now you're doing fascist bullshit.
Correct. Hey, genocide is genocide, man. That's it.
It's just like,
that's what it is.
Oh, hey, you guys were victim of one of the worst genocides in the world. Why are you guys trying to one-up it?
100% in real fucking time. Like, be so for real. So,
I like when we first started the show. I made the stance, it's like we're not a political show, and that's completely gone out the window.
Oh God, it's only gonna get worse, especially with everything going on.
Fuck Gal Gadot.
I'm back.
Did you have headphones on the whole time?
I did, yeah.
So he knows. It's like he's caught up on the entire conversation. We don't need to have anything else go on. So
she premiered a pro-Israeli film while the genocide was happening in Hollywood. Like, fuck her.
Fuck her so much. Not much.
Also, having seen the Snyder Cut, it is better than Joss Whedon's. You can see how those three movies work together.
The bar is very low.
Fuck no.
The bar is very low.
Yeah. No, the bar is super low. And those three movies, Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and the Zack Snyder Justice League cut, they work together as a piece. They are not good.
No.
And like, a lot of Watchmen, the comic, is Alan Moore taking the idea of superheroes, putting them in a real world, and then pushing them to their logical extreme to criticize people who view superheroes the exact way that Zack Snyder views superheroes.
Yeah.
And those three movies are exactly the thing that Watchmen was made to criticize.
Yeah. 100%. And he has this weird problem of constantly putting, Jesus, imagery. Like he did that with Man of Steel, so much. He did that with Batman v Superman. He did this a lot with Dr. Manhattan, and that where it's just constantly basically hamming up. It's he is a god amongst humans thing. It's just you're missing the point.
Absolutely, he is.
You're focusing on the wrong detail and what makes the story important. Again, after reading this, I'm not going to say, like, I love Watchmen. As a matter of fact, if somebody came up to me and was like, oh, man, I love Watchmen, it's like, explain that to me.
Explain it. Yeah. This is definitely one of those things, because my last note that I wrote was, I love this book. I really enjoyed reading it because I see what it is trying to do.
Right.
The criticisms and everything. But this is like Fight Club, where if I say I like that movie, listen to me for a second. Don't judge me based off the fact that I like it. You know? You know?
Yeah, no, it is definitely in that category of things like a Fight Club or American Psycho or like any other kind of film bro, like other kinds of media where it's just like, yes, those things are good. Do you think they're good for the right reasons? Like we need to unpack that, because like when you say you love Watchmen, I know like you're coming at it from the critical understanding of what Alan Moore and Dave Gibbs' intent was and like what the story they were trying to tell, not from your interpretation of it.
Yeah, not from superheroes are badass and we should let that fascism.
Yeah, and what a lot of those other pieces of media get wrong, and it's not necessarily the fault of the media itself, but it's the fault of the audience of just like they attach themselves to the wrong things. Fight Club is a great example, Seth. Of just like, oh yeah, Tyler Durden, just like first rule about Fight Club is just like Project Man. It's just like, you're missing the fucking point. They push themselves to such a logical extreme to where they are causing more harm than they're actually solving.
100%.
Absolutely.
So, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I'm glad that we did get a little extra week so we could, get through the entire... for a graphic novel, it is a very dense book.
Can I mention one more thing? Because I'm interested how you guys feel about this. When I first read this, I hated all of the Black Freighter stuff. Did you guys like the inclusion of the Black Freighter and or the articles in between?
I have I skimmed through a lot of the in-between articles. Like, I maybe paid more attention to the few at the front, but then when we got further in the book, I started kind of just like, yeah, okay, I get the point. And then the Black Freighter stuff is like, it was fine. It more or less kind of let me like kind of get a cadence for like what the exposition was, but was not like, it didn't break it for me.
Yeah, the articles, I found myself, as the graphic novel went on, kind of becoming annoyed with them, because at first they were providing very valuable information.
And then toward context, yeah.
Yeah, and then at the end, I'm like, specifically, I'm thinking about like the Ozymandias interview, where I'm like, he's just saying all of the stuff we learned in the last chapter.
Yeah.
And
it's just like, hey, let's establish how out of touch and like just like of annoying rich asshole he is.
Yeah, let's just reaffirm everything we've already learned.
Yeah.
The Black Freighter stuff, I enjoyed. I'm not entirely sure how it fits into the overall story. And I get why it was cut from the theatrical release.
Yeah.
I was so grateful it was, because honestly, I'm like, Aaron, I had a very similar experience. I skimmed probably the last third of this book because I was just like, I know how this ends. If we could just wrap this up, that would be so
literally, I didn't know if I was gonna finish reading it before the last Saturday, because like it was like I was still like maybe like 2/3 of the way in. And it's just like, so like I literally the night before I just like I went through everything, make sure like I had everything refreshed in my head. I did finish it at like 1:00 in the morning, and then 2:00 in the morning is when you texted saying that we needed to postpone the show. Literally, I rushed to finish it. I literally rushed to finish it just for you to postpone the show. So good job, thank you.
Yeah, I was like, man, I got a couple chapters left. I got to get through this, and then I got that text, and I was like, oh, good, I can wait.
I hadn't even picked it up, to be very honest with you.
It's a very dense book. It's a graphic novel, and so like it doesn't take a long time to read, but like the subject matter is just so intense, and there's like I feel like there's like, again, like going back to kind of thing, it's just like there's a lot of exposition in the dialogue. Because again, you have to kind of do that with a graphic novel, because it's just like you can only show so much emotion and like flow through panels. But yeah, no, it's a very dense book. But yeah, especially with the articles, it's just like I was more focused on the first like 2 or 3, and then as the book went on, it's just like I'm just gonna kind of skim these.
I did pretty much the exact same thing because I was like, I think it does at least the beginning gives you some valuable context of just like, especially like the Under the Hood book, like just kind of see a different perspective on those relationships because you're not going to see all those characters, so it's nice to see like how they started, where the relationship was, and how it kind of devolved over time. Yeah. But I just feel like this is where it kind of like it gets kind of up its own ass a little bit, where it's just like, I know this information already. You're just, and I feel the same about the Black Freighter. I was like, I think you're trying to tell me that's like, man, people get pushed to the brink in these kind of situations and they lose their humanity. I fucking know that's been happening the whole goddamn novel. Although
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what I do like is that I do like the relationship between the person reading the comic and the newsstand person, and especially for them to like. Give him his cap at some point, and them to kind of realize they have the same name, and then for them to die like kind of holding each other. Like I do like it, as sad as it is, I do like the development of that relationship. I don't know if I needed the Black Freighter storyline to have that. So
I will say it would probably be a much different experience if you were reading this as it was releasing in like different segments, as opposed to like doing like a whole read of the entire novel. I think that would have very much changed the dynamic because like again all the like articles and like segments are all toward the end of the book and they give important context. When you're trying to read through this entire thing, it makes it exponentially more dense.
Yes.
And I feel like, and again, the Black Freighter stuff would like, again, creates a cadence and makes you kind of like pay attention to like what's being said and what's being thing. But when you're trying to just like, come on, I need to get through this. It's a different dynamic.
Yeah. No, and that was the thought I definitely had was like, what was it like reading this month to month?
Right.
And like experiencing it the way it was intended to be experienced instead of like, because there was one night I sat and I read like 5 or 6 chapters in one go.
Yeah.
And like, that's not how it's intended to be read.
Nope. You would be waiting monthly or even like once every 2 months to like get a comic back in the day. And like, that's what the comic book reading experience used to be. It wasn't that you can buy an omnibus or a like trade paperback of like a complete arc or anything else like that. Cause like, it's one of those things where it's just like, I don't have many, well, I have a lot of single issue comics, but those were from like 15 years ago now.
Yeah.
But like most of my stuff are trade paperbacks or trades that I've collected over the years. I still have the stuff that you guys bought me like 10 years ago. Like I have American Vampire that Brie got me a while back. Seth, I think I still have. Did you give me The Dark Knight Returns, or was that one I bought myself?
Maybe. I remember you and I at Comic-Con, and I may be the one who got you American Vampire because we met at Max Brooks.
Because that's Scott Snyder.
We had a gift exchange, didn't we? So, and I think
we did a gift exchange
back
when we did Nerd Out. She got me American Vampire, Sandman, and I think she also got me Superbad Red Sun. And then I got you Spider-Man Blue and something else. I forgot what I sent Brie. I know I sent her something.
I know Brie sent me Animal Man at one point.
Yeah. Oh, I love Animal Man.
Yeah.
One of you got me Daredevil Yellow, which I did. I think I got.
I got you Spider-Man Blue and Daredevil Yellow because those were like really kind of good ones, and like you and me had like talked a lot about those comics back. And I was the Marvel guy back in the day. This is before MCU was like at their stride.
Yeah.
Better. It's fine. Just kidding. I almost did.
But no,
hey, Daredevil Yellow is great until the Fantastic Four show up.
Oh yeah, welcome to Marvel. No, it was funny. One of the things that, because I was just thinking about Sandman and we were talking about problematic writers. My next door neighbor, I was over at his place, and like he again is one of those people who is just like, if you had met him, he's me and him are same guy, different font. For the most part. Okay. He also rides a motorcycle. He has a bunch of comics. He loves Mass Effect and Star Wars stuff. So like, you know, we get along really, really well. He has like all of the like omnibuses of Sandman, and he was just like talking about, it's just like, dude, it really sucks because I love Sandman so much, and Neil Gaiman's a piece of shit. I'm just like, I'm really glad to hear this from you, bud.
Yes.
Yep. So happy to hear that.
It's one of those things where it's just like, I know the things that I like are problematic in certain ways. Are you? Is that, oh no, okay, you're on the right page. Cool, we're good.
All right, you're good. Last couple things I have to say about Watchmen is that Dr. Manhattan, after he left that universe, canonically is responsible for the New 52 in the DC universe.
Oh fuck, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, canonically, the end of the New 52 was them like going up against Dr. Manhattan and him like correcting the universe that he fucked with.
Wow, I didn't know
DC,
that at
why do
all.
you suck?
Why? I know, right?
On every fucking level. Like, the comics suck, the movies. Like, they used to have the best animation, and now that sucks.
Yeah, they fucked that up. Let's take The Long Halloween, a graphic novel that has an incredible ending, and just ruin it.
Hey, what if Bruce Timm got a hold of the Killing Joke, and we make Batgirl have a sexual relationship with Batman before we start anything else of the Killing Joke story?
Oh, I forgot about that.
I was just like, it's already problematic as shit. Why did you make it worse?
Yeah. The older I get, the more I hate Bruce Timm. The second thing...
Again, going back to writers being problematic and not self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The second thing has nothing to do with the Watchmen comic at all. But I was gifted my copy on my 20th birthday by my girlfriend at the time because it was her favorite graphic novel. And I had completely forgotten that she wrote in a bunch of stuff in the comic to make it feel as though we were reading it together. And so that was a fun experience to go through and remember that relationship actually meant something to me at one point in my life. Yeah, you turn a page and all of a sudden there's a liner note being like, oh, you need to pay attention to this panel. And
oh, that's kind of sweet though.
Yeah.
You probably should have went to your local library or pirated it instead.
Yeah. I should have just bought it off Amazon and been like, no, I don't need that copy. I forgot. It's been sitting on my shelf for years.
Remember, Alan Moore would support you pirating this novel, not paying money for it.
Absolutely, he would.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So that was a fun little stroll down memory lane. It was like a little jump scare every time I turned the page and be like, oh, here's a note from an ex.
I'm noticing that a lot of our assignments have been making Seth think about his ex a lot. He was thinking about it when we were doing unpacking. Now he was thinking about it when he done Watchmen. Like, Seth, are you okay? Therapy session now. How's it going?
I am not okay.
Just so we're clear.
Never. From 13 to 33 have just been a shit show.
You never should have sold the car.
I know. That fucking car. God,
it's where everything went wrong.
Address. That was the true sign of the downturn.
That's what put us on this timeline. Good job, Seth.
Yeah, it wasn't Harambe at all.
Or the fact that we never got Coolio as Scarecrow.
I think about that daily. Wait,
I literally
go for it.
My partner brought up that like because of when that movie was made, they would have absolutely made Coolio do like a Scarecrow rap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely, they would have.
That's a really good fucking point. Maybe.
That would have been that would have been on the level of like Vanilla Ice's Go Ninja from like Ninja Turtles 2.
Hey, that's a banger.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, it could go one of two ways. It could be like the worst thing that was ever made or the greatest thing that was ever made.
Yeah.
And there's no in between.
I literally, right before we recorded this, I blue skied. I don't know what the verb is for that yet. That Harambe was the Gen Z 9/11.
Oh, God.
Oh, goodness.
Don't worry, there'll be more 9/11s.
Yeah, probably.
You're not wrong.
So this is a funny story. So a few weeks ago, my wife needed me to deliver something to her work, but this is when her car was in the shop and she was using my truck, so I had to take the motorcycle to go drop it off to her. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to get on the Beltway on my motorcycle. I'm going to take the scenic route. And so I just followed the path that I knew how to get to Alexandria, where she works. I ended up missing a turn and ended up in Arlington. And I basically kept riding, and then I got to the Pentagon. And so I told my wife when I got to her work, it's just like, oh, yeah, no, I took a wrong turn, and I ended up hitting the Pentagon.
Oh.
And then on top of that, the McDonald's and the Pentagon song has not left my For You page since it released.
Oh, it hasn't? Yeah, it's left mine.
I still see it at least like 3 times a day, which I'm not mad about.
I've got the ba ba da da ba 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 ba, and all the wizards trying to summon something.
I've gotten that one a few times. But yeah, McDonald's and the Pentagon is still like the one that like is basically still on repeat on my For You page.
Our algorithms
It's
are
a
so
banger
different.
song. Yeah.
I just learned about birds.
Bree's just getting titties and thirst traps.
Oh, I'm getting those too,
No,
but
content. I get to learn about birds.
well, like Bree's already told us no 9/11 content, so we can't send her anything. So we can't. As I go out of my way not to corrupt Bree's For You page, so I only send her cute animals and the occasional thirst trap.
I appreciate that because I am one of those few people who do not think 9/11 jokes are funny. So sorry about it.
you would hate mine and Seth's DMs because holy.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
That's
And then,
I have a friend of mine. A friend of mine calls 9/11 her and my favorite holiday.
It's mine and my partner's anniversary also, so it's fine.
Oh. Well, at least she'll never forget.
Yeah,
it's true.
I think I'm quitting.
I'm sorry.
We got Bree to quit the show. Let's go. We had a therapy session and then Bree quitting. We're back on track, boys.
3 weeks, we're back.
Exactly. So, anyways, we've talked a lot about this piece of media and how we feel about it. Are there any kind of like characters that specifically, and it's not just Watchmen, we can open this up, like characters that everybody seems to really love? I think Rorschach's the example from Watchmen that you're just kind of like, no, that character sucks, and here's why they suck.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I'm the one who put this on the dock, and I really should have put more thought into this.
Yeah, it sounds like we've all
especially-
talked about the Joker because like we're sick of the Joker.
Been sick of him.
Yeah. There's the Joker. Just the fact that so many people, I won't say everybody, but so many people like identify with the Joker is very disturbing.
A problem.
It's like that's somehow
It
we
is.
got the alt-right and Rorschach people somehow.
Yeah.
100%.
Also, everything bad I could ever say about Rorschach, great costume. Especially in the Zack Snyder film where it's like moving and stuff.
So
That's
so
rad.
good. Yeah.
Again, younger me probably was in that boat of like Rorschach's so cool, he's the coolest, and like again, with age and wisdom comes understanding. Like, oh, but like the design, the character, all that other kind of stuff. And again, like at the end, he's the one character who said like, no, fuck this shit, this is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of going.
He's
into,
the only one who didn't.
Yeah, and like there's the class consciousness, which is something that like we're dealing with right now after the United Healthcare CEO got shot. Of like even people who are on that far right also went like, yeah, no, fuck him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's that understanding. It's just like no, like it's just like we all end up in different places based on our experience. He ended up where he is because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you know, Tyler Durden's another one of that same vein of like people
Toxic
identify.
masculinity.
Yeah, even though he was written to be a critique of toxic masculinity, people don't have the awareness is the word I'm going to use. It's not the word I want, but to recognize. Yeah, media literacy. Thank you so much. That they don't see that he's supposed to be the problem. Yeah. Like you're not supposed to. Joel from The Last of Us is another one. Have either of you played The Last of Us? I think I've asked this before.
Yeah.
No, but I'm familiar enough. I think I watched like like Last of Us the movie, and it's just like a full playthrough of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he he is strictly a villain who only acts out of selfish interests.
Yeah.
But people think of him as the hero because he's the character you play. And you're completely misunderstanding the point of the ending of that game.
Yeah.
And you could be empathetic towards it without liking him as a character.
Yeah.
I think, like, you can understand.
Exactly.
Like, I think that's where people, like, I'm like, you're right there. You can be on the line and be like, God, if I was in that situation, I might have done the same thing. Like, I don't think I would have, but it's like that's a tough call, especially.
Oh, I would have.
So I probably have too.
I have a similar opinion of Magneto because with a lot of stuff going on, like there's the narrative like Magneto is right. I was just like, you guys don't understand. Magneto is so anti-fascist, he became a fascist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like that is his character. Like literally all the things that like, yes, he's reacting to his own trauma and the things that were done poorly to him, and he is genuinely caring about his own people in his own community, but he's doing it in a way that is also committing a genocide.
Yes.
Yeah, it's that Broad City joke of you're so woke you've gone back around to being problematic.
Horseshoe theory. Just straight up horseshoe theory. And like that's actually one of the things I thought about with like Rorschach. It was just kind of like you go so far right you end up going left, and like leftists do that all the time too, where they go so far left that they end up being on the right at some point.
Especially white leftists. Especially white leftists.
Yeah.
So
and like
yes.
And like it's one of those things, like it is valid. Even if you agree with certain opinions, it is valid to criticize, like specifically, just because even though like you're supposedly on the same side, you need to understand and be able to call out shit. Like that is incredibly important.
Yeah, you can be empathetic but not condone it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's where people lose that.
Yeah, and again, going back to Watchmen, like again, all the main flaw of every character in Watchmen is they all inherently lack empathy. Inherently, that is like the big thing. Is just, and that's how you end up in, again, fascism. It's just like you inherently lack empathy for other people, because as a cis white hetero dude, like, look, it's just like life's easy for me in the U.S.
Yeah,
it like is the easiest fucking thing in the world, and that's what white privilege is. And so when it's one of those things where it's just, go ahead.
And to not get too heavy, right out of high school, I worked at a halfway house for teenagers who were homeless and like, or whatever. I had a rough teenage experience. Yeah. Nothing like what these people experienced. And like, it showed me that, yes, being a cis white man, I can still come up against adversity. Yeah. It is nothing like what other people are dealing with.
Absolutely.
Everybody is entitled to their trauma and their life experience, but it's also important when somebody else is sharing their life experience and trauma and like dealing with it to just shut up and listen.
Yeah, it doesn't invalidate your experience by any means. Like, you could still have that experience and be traumatized by it, but you can't speak over other people who definitely have it harder than you. Like, you're losing the plot.
Yeah, I was talking to I was talking to somebody who's a therapist, and like one of the couples is like, it's like one of them is a trans person, and so they're going through like the hormone stuff and everything else. And during one of their sessions, they talked about how one of the partners was talking about, it's like, oh, I had a really rough day at work. It's just like, you're entitled to be, worn out because, work is rough right now. I think your partner's has, rougher stuff that I think we should be prioritizing talking about right now first.
Yeah.
And like, it's really, really rough right now, especially for a lot of people I know in my area because of all the stuff going on with the federal government. People are losing their jobs. I have queer and trans friends who work in government agencies, and they're being required to delete things about literally themselves and their life experience on government websites because of the stuff that's going on. And like, that's traumatic as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was homeless as a teenager, but I still had a family that I was homeless with. I wasn't thrown out of my house because my uncle raped me and my parents wouldn't allow me to have an abortion. And then once the baby was born, they kicked me out.
Yeah.
Which is an experience that one of my kids that I worked with at the halfway house had.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, your trauma is valid and everything else, but in the situation where you're discussing certain things, it's okay to shut the fuck up for a minute.
Oh, absolutely.
if either of you have heard about this, but there's been unfortunately a huge uptick of women's only gyms, and those gyms
I've heard of this,
excluding trans people and non-binary people. And I feel like this echoes this very much, where it's just like, by including these people, you're not invalidating that women have struggles. We're all fucking aware of that. I unfortunately, I'm like myself included, most women I know, if not all women I know, have been sexually assaulted at some point. So it's just like, yes, we absolutely deserve to have a safe space, but it is so fucking weird, I think, to be like, to climb up that ladder ourselves and then pull it out from everyone else. Like, it's just like trans women and trans people, non-binary people deserve a space in our space. And again, I feel like so many women, cis women, are taking it as a attack on their experience. They're like, oh, well, they don't know what it's like to have XYZ. Doesn't fucking matter. They have it so hard in so many different ways, and that doesn't make our struggles any less. They deserve a spot at our table, and we need to make space at that table. So from one cis woman to hopefully all cis women in the world, good fucking God, they belong in our space. And it's so, again, as somebody who works at a primarily female fitness studio, we do have trans students and we do have non-binary students, because they fucking deserve a seat at that table. And it is infuriating that this is still a conversation.
Again, it's the inherent lack of empathy. Like, look, I'm not expecting anybody to understand all of the nuances of how people who are non-binary, queer, transgender, like, it's just like, look, it is way more complicated than like it needs to be sometimes. But regardless, these are still people. Regardless of like any of the other stuff, these are still people, and they deserve a certain level of fucking dignity.
Yes.
It costs nothing to treat a person with respect.
Yeah. And I don't get it when people are just so disrespectful for somebody that they don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because that person doesn't match, again, whatever your ideal like view of society and the world should be. And like, nobody has my life experience, and I don't expect everybody's life experience to be exactly like mine. It's inherently wrong.
Well, and it's Aaron, you sent me a video a little while ago about how fascism is it's an idealized thing before it is a like political thing.
Yeah,
and
before you were a fascist, you were an asshole. Brennan Lee Mosley.
Yeah. Exactly. And how like fascism exists within this world of black and white, and how anything that is against the thing that you already exist, regardless of how good it is for the world, it is bad because it goes against what you believe. Yeah. And that is what we find in modern day Christianity. Like, anything that is against what Christians believe is an attack on Christianity, even if it is a positive for the people who are not Christian.
Right. Which makes absolutely no sense when you consider the actual teachings of Jesus.
Exactly. Yep.
But yeah, like, and that's the thing. Like, it is inherently a belief system that comes from a lack of empathy. Like, again, I don't agree with everything I'm told from anybody. Like, it's one thing. You put me in a room with like anybody across the political spectrum, I'm going to disagree with you about something. I don't agree with both of you on everything. Sure. You guys don't agree with me on everything, but we're friends, and we respect each other, and we hear each other out about certain things. And I don't ever leave any of these podcasts or calls with you guys thinking so like, well, fuck that person. Like, no, it's just like, like, they have their reasons for believing what they believe and what they think and everything else. And, like, unless I think you're an absolute asshole, I'm just like, no, I'll give you that space.
Well, and, like, even though we have disagreements on certain subjects, none of us are going out of our way to make life harder for people who disagree with us.
Right.
Well, I feel like some people like do like the whole like suffer Olympics about it, where they're just like, well, I've suffered the most. So
I am the biggest victim. Nobody has ever been more victimized than me.
Well,
what about my trauma?
Oh, 100%. It's like, oh, well, because I've had it hard in these situations, you should also have those situations. It's like, why would you want people to also suffer? Like, I don't want people to go through what I went through. Like, that blows my fucking mind. Like, I want people to have like access to education and things like that. Like, this shouldn't be a fucking hot take. It isn't a hot take. Like, just because I've struggled with all these things doesn't mean I want every person underneath me to have the same struggles or more. Why? For fucking why? I want them to have a better life than me.
I had to pay off my student loans, so why should somebody else get their student loans forgiven?
Going back to the stuff that's happening with the federal government, which has fucked, my local economy, and the reason I've been unemployed for 4 months until now. Literally, it's just like, we're gonna, lay off all of the probationary employees. It's like, those people are not the reason there's a lot of shitty fraud, waste, and abuse in the federal government. It's literally the system that's set up. It's not the workers that are the problem. It's the system they're working in. You guys need to fix that, not lay off hundreds of thousands to millions of people, put them out of a job. Absolutely. That's not how this works. It's like, fix the problem with the system. Don't just fire a shit ton of people. This isn't. So sorry, I'm going to get on a rant right now. The government, the government is not inherently supposed to be a for-profit entity. As a matter of fact, if your government is making a profit, they're not doing their job right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the government should be for the people, by the people, not for themselves. Yeah. Fuck the people.
Yeah, no, it's... I'm sorry for being the one to bring up the topic that's very heavy and dense. Obviously, that's on me, but I think it's important. And again, as I said previously in the show, I threw out we're not a political show. After the election, we are absolutely a political show now.
To be fair, I never abided by we're not a political show.
I respect the hell out of that.
Thank you. But that whole thing reminds me of I had a youth pastor who taught a whole sermon about why he didn't give homeless people money. And it was because they were just going to spend it on drugs and spend it on whatever. And I was currently homeless at that time. And I was like, that's not your fucking call. Mm-hmm. If somebody, I at this point would use that money for food for my family. But if I were at a place where I needed to get alcohol, I needed to get drugs to numb myself from everything going on, that's not your fucking call. You just need to be a person, be a human being, and take kindness on. And when I was working downtown in my 20s, I made friends with a lot of the homeless people who were begging at the time, because I'd be out on the corner smoking a cigarette during my lunch break and strike up a conversation with these people. They're just people. Yeah. They're humans. And it is not my call to decide for what is right for them.
You can also buy them a sandwich or something, you know what I mean? If you're a good fucking Christian. Actually, you could also, hey, I'm going to go into the store. Can I get you anything? Also a good thing you can do if you don't feel comfortable. There's so many ways to contribute, you fucking asshole.
Back when I was in school, we would leave, a restaurant, if I had, a leftover pizza or something that I had boxed up and, a homeless person came up to me, I'd always just, hand them, here you go, bud. Yeah.
One specific place I worked downtown, my boss would take all of the stuff we were supposed to throw out at the end of the day, and he would drive around giving it out to homeless people. Yep. His name was Steve. He was an amazing human being. I loved working for him. So shout out to Steve. Hi, you're never going to see this.
Hi, Steve.
But yeah, he was great.
Yeah, no, one thing that I did recently, I was at a 7-Eleven when I was at my old job, and it was a teenager, teenager, maybe early 20s, who was trying to buy something, and their card got declined, basically just trying to buy just food and candy from 7-Eleven and stuff, and they were just okay, well, I guess I'll leave, and I was just behind them, and it's hey, bring their stuff up, I'll pay for their stuff. As part of my stuff. It was just it was $5 for a soda, some chips, candy, and just a little bit of food. I'm just yeah, it's not a problem. Just the little bit of good karma to just pay forward. It's not hard. Yeah. I don't know the person, I don't know their story, but I could still show just that basic human decency.
Yeah, and you don't even have to buy things for homeless people. No. You don't have to just treating them like a human. There was one of the guys that I used to speak to constantly because he bussed on the corner that I smoked my cigarette. We would just get talking, and he very much appreciated the fact, and he told me so, that he appreciated the fact that I would just sit and talk with him for a while instead of walking past him and being they're humans, they're people, and we are all in this together. And you don't have to do a good deed, quote unquote, just acknowledge them as the people that they are.
Oh yeah, and also given our economy, and like I know people say this all the time, but it is absolutely true. Especially the fucking weekend I had last weekend. I'm like, you are one or two calamities away from being homeless, versus you being a billionaire. So,
Yeah.
you're closer than you
Absolutely.
fucking think.
Yeah, as somebody who was unemployed for 4 months, my savings account and credit card balance are not great.
Yep.
They're hurting.
I'm just like, ooh, buddy, that took a beating. And like, yeah, no, like it's one of those things where it's just like look, again, like, yeah, I'm never gonna be a billionaire or a millionaire or even close to like 100,000-aire. Not even close.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the game is rigged against us.
Correct.
Regardless.
It is.
And the few success stories that are out there, it's just like that's 1 in a billion, literally. Like the rags to riches story does not happen. And even if it does happen, there was something going on behind the scenes to make it happen.
It's gonna trickle down though any day now, so don't worry.
Yeah.
Trickle down like the piss on Reagan's.
They're coming.
Trickling down like the piss on Reagan's grave currently flowing.
Oh, and every time I pee on Reagan's grave, it's a trickle. I need to go to the doctor.
Oh, God. All right.
Do not have good flow. Also,
tell me
very
about-
frothy.
No.
Seth, you need to go while Medicaid is still a thing.
Yeah, while I still have it, I gotta get in.
Well, we're at just past an hour. Do we want to cover anything else on the doc, or we think we're good to kind of wrap up today?
What was on the doc?
Just a couple of little things. Talking about comic book writers, talking about Supernatural Reunion, which I don't think me and Brie give a shit about.
No,
I honestly don't give a shit about it either. It was just an entry point into the next conversation, which was what shows have you quit watching?
There's so many things I can't even think of it.
I know, dude. Like, for like back when Walking Dead, I stopped watching, and then I had so many friends be like, so looks like my internet froze, and I'm just here now.
You were out for a minute. So you were talking about Walking Dead and how, like, it went on too long and got bad.
Yeah. No, I had a lot of friends, because I stopped watching. I had a lot of friends be like, dude, let me talk to you about The Walking Dead. It sucks so much. And I'm like, why are you still watching?
I didn't really see the watch past like season 2. Like I fell off really early. It got bad really quickly. I was like,
it was after
about it.
Yeah, like, after Breaking Bad ended, because they were both kind of like coming out around the same time early. Mm-hmm. Like, it was people who got used to watching Breaking Bad around the same time slot, like, kind of tried to stick with it, and it just petered out so hard. There's several things. I've talked about the Rooster Teeth stuff, which, by the way, Rooster Teeth's coming back now.
Yeah, evidently. Yeah.
Well, it's not going to be the same as it was. Literally, Bernie just bought the rights back, so it's not going to be the same thing. No, but like Bernie doesn't have the money to be able to just bring everybody back, and he's even said as much. So I don't know what it's going to look like.
It's like Michael Swayman cracked.
Yeah, like I'm excited to, for Rooster Teeth to go back to like the smaller roots type stuff and like be more independent instead of just being a shell company for Warner Brothers. But again, like, Achievement Hunter's not coming back. A bunch of the old people aren't coming back. It's not going to be the same. So don't get too hyped for it.
And there is also, I don't know how you both feel, but I know personally when something goes away, I'm specifically thinking of Attack of the Show. And then like 1 or 2 people work really hard to keep that idea alive and they keep coming back to it. I'm like, dude, just move on.
Yep.
Just move on.
Yeah. Like, because Kevin Pereira went away for a long, like he was still doing stuff after G4 went under the first time, and he kept doing stuff and it was a pretty okay. And then he just completely ran out of steam. It's like, dude, like, let it go.
Yeah. So I followed his career because I was a big Kevin Pereira fan. My online persona was heavily based off of Kevin Pereira for a long time. And I still feel Pereira-isms come out even when we're doing this show. He did.
It's okay. I tried to base myself off of Henry Rollins, so I have no room to judge.
That's fair. Henry Rollins is a better person than Kevin Pereira.
By a mile.
Yeah. But Kevin did Pointless, which was a podcast for a while. And then he started a Twitch channel where he was just doing Attack of the Show again, but it was called The Attack. Then that died. He went back to doing Pointless, and then he bought the rights to G4, X-Play, and Attack of the Show, restarted that. That failed, and now he's doing some podcast about AI. I don't know. I stopped caring years ago. Yeah, he and I used to play Brawl Stars together, but like that was the extent of like connection I had with him.
Right. Brie, what about you? What's something that, you just don't give a fuck about anymore? There's a lot, I know.
I'm sure. I know we mentioned The Last of Us because it's funny because I bought like the second game like the day it came out and I played it for like 2 hours and then I just never picked it up again, which is
fair.
Yeah, to my understanding was probably the best move. So I probably won't go back to it at any point. And
that game is surprisingly pro-Israel.
I've learned that recently. I was like, okay, well, good that I stopped when I did, apparently, because the first game is so
when I was
good, so.
Yeah, to not interrupt you, which I'm going to do anyway. When I was playing it, I was like, this feels familiar. This story feels like some real world allegory. I can't place it. And then the genocide started happening, and I was like, oh shit, that game's about Israel and Palestine. Oh yeah. Fuck.
Yeah, no, playing Mass Effect 3, especially when you get to the section about like the GIF and the Quarians specifically in their civil war, it's just like, oh yeah, so this is definitely has nothing to do with war in the Middle East whatsoever, and what's going on with Israel Palestine. And like, there's literally a section where like you go through like the GIF's like mainframe, and they show like the history of like what actually happened during like the war, and it's just like the Quarians are just like, that's not the stories we were told. Like, yeah, no shit.
Yup, that's called propaganda.
Yeah, but please, I'm sorry I interrupted.
Okay. I just love that you're like, not to interrupt you, which I'm currently doing.
Typical white man. Typical white man.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's fine. I don't know if anybody watched. This was popular many years ago, but the show You, like the whole stalking show.
God.
Super fucking good season 1. To be very honest with you, I liked season 1 a lot. It got okay in season 2, absolutely fucking jumped the shark in season 3, and I can't believe it's still going. I was like, who the fuck is still watching
going?
This? Yes, I think the last
fucking
season is it should have really only been one season, because season 1 is actually I still like, I haven't watched it in a while, but season 1 was really fucking good. Season 2 again, okay, but yeah, season 3 got ridiculous, and I'm just like, this is what happened. Like, you really had an interesting kind of creepy concept here, and it just it was just a bummer, because yeah, like, again, it's good, and I love that main actor. He seems super fun, just like all the stuff he does on social media, but yeah, I don't know. Those are the only ones I can really think of right off the bat. I did want to mention really quick, because we were talking about characters that you hate that everyone loves. And I mentioned this before, and this is very general, but like, I don't understand the appeal of Doctor Who, and I never will. I've watched so many different variations of Doctor Who, and I just don't get it.
You're hurting Seth's feelings. All three of them.
I get it.
Well, watch Blink or whatever that fucking episode is with Angels. Like, I still don't get it. Like, I've seen so many iterations of the Doctor, I don't get it.
In your defense, it's very hard for me to go back and watch any Doctor Who, even the stuff I did like.
Mm-hmm.
It is a schlocky sci-fi show. The problem with Blink is that Blink breaks with a lot of traditions of the show, and if you watch that and expect the show to be that, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
I love pretty much everything from Christopher Eccleston through the first half of Matt Smith.
That's where I fell off.
Yeah. That being said, there are some really bad episodes in the David Tennant era. There are just some terrible episodes. And you just kind of have to accept it. At this point,
it is a BBC quality show. So, like, it's, and like, going to your point about like it breaks conventions with the show is designed not to have convention. Like, they can do whatever. It's literally do whatever you want, nothing matters. You can break every rule, every law of physics. Like, it doesn't matter.
And that's honestly why I stopped watching the show. It's because they got to a point where for a minute, for a hot fucking second, they actually cared about timeline and lore. And then they just threw it all out the window. And that's when I stopped
Moffat
giving a shit
started
as
writing.
well. Yep. And then Moffat started writing. So I feign hurt when you say that, Brie, but I get it. I completely get it.
My partner feels the same way. He has a TARDIS tattooed on his arm. He loves Doctor Who, and he's tried so hard to get me into it. And I just
Emily has the Van Gogh mug with the TARDIS and like the Starry Night like painting on it. She also does. She had a TARDIS at one point. She also has a Jack Harkness action figure.
I used to have the World War II poster of the Dalek. And
Emily
I also
had that too.
The Van Gogh poster.
Emily had that one too. She did.
Oh, that's fun.
My partner has that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of us have collectively have had that poster.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Like I said, there was a time when I really, really loved Doctor Who, but I get it. I completely get it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Not every piece of media has to be for you. Like, even if something is objectively good and somebody really, really likes it, just because somebody else doesn't like it does not invalidate your opinion.
100%. And I want to stress that I don't think it's necessarily bad. I have tried, and I just think it's very clearly not for me. And I feel like people keep trying to convince me that it is. And I will say also, which I think I've mentioned before, Mass Effect was an outlier for me because I do not have a lot of interest in sci-fi. Like, I don't have a lot of interest in space. Mass Effect changed that for me because it had a lot of nuance to it, and the different races of aliens were actually very interesting. You got to meet them. I liked how in-depth it went with all of that. It was a lot more interesting look, and it made me interested in space in general, which got me into Star Wars at some point. So, although Star Wars is way worse.
Again, as a Star Wars fan in the room,
like 100%.
As somebody who will defend The Last Jedi, I don't blame you. I actually have that same box set.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I do.
Nice. I found it in the move.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, like, again, like, you know, because like I fell off of Star Wars a while back. I think like second season of Mandalorian was the last thing I've watched. I tried watching Ahsoka, it didn't hook me, even though me and my wife love that character. Mm-hmm. And like I'm just burnt out on it. Like I don't like the direction's going. I think, again, like, it's just like, dude, shelve this. It was better when you, like, gave us time to, like, want it and actually enjoy the media that we had, as opposed to just constantly shoving new stuff down our throat that, like, if I don't find it interesting, I'm not going to pay attention. It's the problem with...
Have I get over Disney, honestly. I'm interested in that because especially with all the live-action remakes of everything, I was like, is there going to be a point where people are done with this? Because they just...
Oh, my God.
Shoving all this down our throats.
So that's Snow White.
As long as there's children.
Yeah. That Snow White live action, I was surprised this week to find out that it hasn't come out yet. After everything that I've heard. No, it hasn't.
I had a moment of just like, wait, they didn't already do a live action Snow White? I thought that already came out.
I've been hearing all of the controversies around Gal Gadot, who we mentioned earlier, fuck her, and also the fact that they're doing like CGI dwarves instead of hiring actual little people, which is like a controversy in of itself. I am not a little person. I cannot speak to that.
Mm-hmm. Didn't we specifically have Peter Dinklage to break that barrier?
I think Peter Dinklage, a lot of little people from what I've seen on my For You page are blaming him for the reason why little people haven't been cast in that role, because he was so against little people being cast as dwarves in like traditional roles that they would have been cast in.
Interesting. That's a complicated issue. Yeah.
It's complicated. I'm not a little person.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Yeah, this goes back over the not speaking for things that are not in our lane. Mm-hmm. Like, again, I will always go to bat for somebody who is not in specifically my specific demographic, but also at the same time, I don't want to be the one to speak for them.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm not educated enough on the situation to feel as though I can speak with it with any amount of
and what you typically
authority.
find, even within those communities, there's not a consensus. Those things can be very fragmented.
Yeah.
Disney's not great, and we could stop giving them money. I think we could all agree on that because they just keep throwing literally, I mean, the fact that they are just doing live remakes, because I know, honestly, the reason I'm talking about this because on my For You page is so much about the Lilo and Stitch live action and how
I've
they're
only
casting
seen
people
one
for
thing.
that.
It looks like it's made with AI. It
Yeah.
looks so bad.
Who wants this? I'm so confused.
Bubbles, the actor playing Bubbles, is not muscular or tall enough. And the woman playing Lilu's sister aunt is
Nani.
not thick. And I
that's
have a problem with that.
I haven't watched any of it, but you say that makes me instantly not want to give money to just watch it. Like, I'm already upset.
There.
Give me my thick Hawaiians and muscular aliens.
Yep. Well, we know what Aaron's Googling tonight. That Pornhub search.
Specific word for
Wait, you don't actually strike me as a Pornhub. What are you, an X video? Are you an X hamster? Are you a RedTube?
Seth, I actually have sex, so I don't need to be like porn websites.
I miss Pink Lab. Were either of you ever on Pink Lab?
You introduced me to Pink Lab on the old Hangout days. You were the one who introduced me to that. Brie, don't look that up.
Here's the thing.
It doesn't exist.
My porn in GIF form, honestly, because I just have.
I miss Tumblr porn. Tumblr porn was so good.
Tumblr porn was the best. It was the best.
Mm-hmm. I don't need to watch a plot. I just need to. I'd see tits. Thank you so much.
Twitter porn just doesn't hit the same.
Fair.
We've talked about it, but I did those AI sex bots for a minute, and it's just too much work. You got to have like a full conversation before you get to the sexy stuff, and I'm just past it at this point.
So basically, it's the same experience of being on a dating app, is what I'm hearing.
It is.
Why would you?
But you're talking to a robot.
I was about to say, what's the point of that? If you know it's not a real person on the other end. Part of the fun is like
a real person doesn't always want to dress up like Hatsune Miku.
We talk to very different people, so. I think you need to think about your standards and your type. I think you need to broaden your horizons.
Standards? What is that? I don't know what that is.
So all of your exes, don't do that again.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I've been doing wrong.
I gotta get over that bar.
Yeah, it's like whatever that is. Try to do something better than that. Me and Brie have a lot.
Comfortable. That makes me feel at home, right? Being emotionally neglected and treated poorly. That feels right at this point in my dating life.
So, Brie, as the other person in this who has also had a dating history, would you like to explain to Seth how you're not supposed to go after people exactly like your previous partners because your previous partners are assholes?
Here's the thing. I just started doing that. So
Brie has been where I am.
Yeah. I was like, oh, neglect is still abuse? Shit. I was so close.
I'm just going to go back to sleeping with married women. It was easier and less complicated.
Was it?
Surprisingly, yeah. As long as the husband doesn't know.
Don't be the other woman.
You guys saw that one story I put up on TikTok recently?
I remember that one. I remember that one.
Yep. That was a come to Jesus moment. That was oh fuck, I'm a bad person.
Yeah, Hey, look, the first step is admitting you have a problem. I forgot the other 11 steps.
I know come to God is one of them, which is why I have a problem with AA. But hey, we've talked about this before.
Everything becomes a cult at some point.
Yep.
All right. All right. Brie, what's our homework?
Yes.
So I have options. My first one is because here's the thing. I've been avoiding it for forever, but I'm concerned that both of you have seen it already. Did you guys both watch Arcane Season 2 already?
I did, but I'll rewatch it.
I have not.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, because honestly, I'm at the point where I keep running into media where they're talking about it, and I can't avoid anything anymore.
Like my For You page was crowded with it, so I had to watch it as it was coming out. So, but yeah, I've seen it, but I'm more than happy to rewatch it.
Okay, yeah, let's do Arcane Season 2.
Woo-hoo. I'll reach out to Meg and see if she wants to come back for that one.
Love to have her again.
I'll hit her up, see if she wants to be guest host for next time.
Let's do it.
Cool. Sounds good.
Anyways, that is our show today. Sorry for such a heavy conversation, but again, we live in the same dystopian hellscape, and it's important for us to rail against it, even if it is a bunch of white people sitting on a podcast. I think it's important. Take care of each other.
We're good white people, though. We're not like them. They not like us.
Look at our blue bracelets.
Yeah, I'm not gonna broach that one. Anyways, I am TCK Media Productions on most platforms. You have the Raccoon-a-Loon herself, Brie, over there. You can find her occasionally, especially on her podcast, Game Birds. I think you guys have been on hiatus for a while.
We'll be back in April. We will be back in April.
Okay, cool. So keep an eye out from that. It's a great show. They talk about indie games and sometimes not indie games, but it's always a good time. You have that Seth23, who now makes money off of TikTok, so go watch his stuff.
Yeah, a very tiny little bit. I got my first payout a couple weeks ago, and it was nice.
Yep.
Nice.
So, yeah, make sure you watch all of the videos, specifically that are over a minute long, because apparently that's how fucking TikTok monetizes shit, which makes no sense.
I got a notification today that was like, make $20 on your videos if it gets 25,000 views.
I will unfollow you the moment that you start posting stuff from TikTok Shop. I'm gonna make that a hard rule, just so you know.
What if it's that grenade pocket pussy that's been floating around?
I stand by my original statement. Anyways, this has been Internet Friends. We appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye!